So, you're a refugee of the Dracovish ban crisis that plagued SSOU last generation. Without your brainless button, you actually have to think about what a Wallbreaker is and how to make use of each one's individual talents. Well, young 1200 ELO player, allow me to walk you through what makes a Wallbreaker, and so you too can develop a brain cell. First, it's important to discuss what a Wallbreaker is. Well, it's in the name. A Wallbreaker's role is to exert an extreme amount of burst damage, so much so that the Pokemon's overall offensive profile can overwhelm standard defensive stalwarts on a game-to-game basis before they can retaliate or react with recovery. It's worth noting that this term often gets confused with Stallbreaker, which instead uses a litany of tools to steadily but reliably dismantle passive Pokemon. Stallbreakers would be using moves like Taunt, which block recovery and most status affliction methods, while Wallbreakers would be using moves like Vicious Rend. However, in spite of being a more dedicated means to inflict damage, the way in which this damage is dished out changes from Pokemon to Pokemon. Generally, there are a few different ways you can Wallbreak. For instance, making use of Future Sight or utilizing mixed offenses to crack open dedicated walls like Clodsire or Felicity. But all good ones have very key overlap in what makes them good. Any Pokemon with a competent offensive profile has the potential to break walls, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're actually good at doing the job. In general, to be a good Wallbreaker, you need to be able to leverage your power throughout the game. This means having the ability to be a consistent threat in a generic sense, of course. However, you also need to be able to use that inherent threat factor to make progress, support teammates, and/or overwhelm checks reliably. So, let's briefly talk about these qualities. A powerful stab combination is extremely important in making your Wallbreaker a consistent threat, as it means your Wallbreaker is not as reliant on constantly getting turns correct to exert pressure. Constantly thudding into walls that resist your primary stab moves means you aren't going to be doing much damage. For instance, the Ghost type is a good wall-breaking type in spite of not hitting much super effectively, but it consistently deals neutral damage, making it a great stab type for more powerful attackers to click without much further thought. But, because of it being most reliant on the 80 base power Shadow Ball, resists are greatly problematic. So, having a complementary, similarly reliable stab type can make the Ghost type stab more potent in the long run by letting you threaten common resists earlier on. A good Wallbreaker is typically not one-dimensional, since predictability without some means to create progress or the ability to threaten potential switch-ins means you aren't really able to do the job well in the first place. For instance, this can mean utilizing a strong stab move with innately threatening secondary effects, such as Steam Eruption and Knockoff, or a pivoting move like U-Turn to enable another teammate in some way, or just being really fucking overwhelmingly strong. This is also part of why Darkrai is such a menacing Wallbreaker despite only having one stab move, since it has an incredible speed tier, boosting, incredible coverage, and progress-making moves in Will-O-Wisp, Thunderwave, and Knockoff to help it overwhelm checks throughout the game in a variety of matchups. Kyurem also manages to be consistently threatening, despite having a middling stab combination due to its insane set variety and great coverage. Lastly, and arguably most importantly, a good Wallbreaker can find opportunities to do its job in the first place. This can manifest in several ways, but by far the most valuable is with speed. If you mix at least some speed investment with a solid defensive profile to force trades, you can leverage these qualities to make use of your power on a game-to-game basis. This is a common reason why slower, bulkier Wallbreakers will heavily invest in speed, even if it seems like it doesn't accomplish much, simply because denying a potential recovery move or a retaliation attempt from a wall can make a big difference in your ability to actually break them in the 1v1. The best case scenario is you possess both a competent defensive profile and speed, but if you lack bulk, you need speed. If you lack speed, you need bulk. This is hugely why Rampardos is awful at being Wallbreaker. To make use of a Wallbreaker, positioning is key. Good pivots are the quintessential way to get in frailer Wallbreakers, but having the ability to defensively check common metagame threats can leverage more aggressive positioning while also reinforcing the team. Koopa Unbound, for example, is one of the more dynamic Wallbreakers available in the tier due to its solid stab combination, which boosts excellent progress-making moves in Psychic Noise and Knockoff, absurd mixed offenses, and great special bulk to enter the field more often. This makes it a great special wall that can aggressively enter the field against Voldengo, and reliably click Knockoff to make progress and deal serious damage in a fell swoop. It still greatly appreciates a pivoting support, but it has the speed and defensive profile to find entry points of its own. You can also use a Wallbreaker's bulk to force trades. Sometimes greatly damaging a wall in exchange for the life of your Wallbreaker can be worth it in the long run. Overall, Wallbreakers are a bit more complex of an archetype than meets the eye. When building teams, they can be really fun to explore, and I would definitely encourage doing so, since it can be greatly rewarding to use your ability to observe defensive trends to break apart common metagame cores. But don't ever expect to bring back Lord Fish.